I felt like I was an acquaintance to every human on the planet because I was a good guy. I was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Came from a family of good people, carried with it a good name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but there wasn't much depth to any relationship that I had. And you know that wasn't good for, because I got married at 22, 25 years in now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm bringing something to the relationship, bringing something to our parenting. My working definition of love now is to stick and stay. Whoever sticks and stays, they love me. And if I want to prove to someone that they're being loved in this moment, I'll just stick. I'll just stay.
Man, that's downright mindful.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Do or do not. There is no try.
I still have a dream.
Welcome to Downright Mindful, a meeting place where we explore meaning, seek connections, and examine the relationships between people, events, and the ideas that shape our world. Hosted by me, Matt Paris, my friend and colleague Paul Sawswell, each episode will dive into thoughtful conversations that spark reflection and curiosity. Thanks for joining us. Now let's get right down to it.
Everything that they created, go back and watch that movie. Have you done it?
I have not.
It's like anything that they've got in the house. He's talking to his boss. He's about to get fired, and he's on this like big screen.
Yeah.
And I get like a fax machine spits something out. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. And it's like that's we're so far past that.
Yeah,
you know.
for sure.
But then there's other things like Ready Player One. Seen that one?
I've not.
The book is amazing.
Yeah.
But the movie was all right. It was entertaining. But like the book is like, oh my word, our society could shift this way. And it's like, oh gosh. So when I went back to watch that Her movie, it was like, I mean, he just sits down, he puts it in, it starts talking to him, he starts talking back. He puts his earpiece in. It's just an earbud, but I mean, 10 years ago, we're still the cool guy, you know.
Yeah.
iPod, we still got like wires going on. It was just like, I mean, it's just our normal now. And then it was like, it was not normal.
I know, man. Listen, this hasn't been that long ago, but I can remember being an adult and seeing a commercial on TV. And in this commercial, I forget exactly what the advertisement was for. Maybe an internet company of some sort or whatever. But it depicted this old man who's a grandfather with a laptop on his lap watching a basketball game of his granddaughter live. And I was like, there's no wires attached to that laptop anywhere. What is happening? And man, that feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And look where we are.
Yeah.
It's wild. My mind can't keep up. I can't imagine, just like as they're filming Back to the Future, they tried really hard and they did a good job in a lot of ways, but their minds couldn't imagine where we would be in only 2024. And things are moving fast.
So they went 1985 to 2015. So go 2024 plus 30. I mean, the way technology advances today. See, that's why I would love to sit a Colby Burris down and say, all right, how fast is technology actually advancing these days? These numbers that we randomly come across, like how deep is that research of like what do we need to be planning for? Can we even plan for it? Is a legitimate question. And the one thing that will hopefully remain is our humanity, that humans would still be in the process of everything that we're talking about when it comes to AI. That, like that masterclass I was telling you about, of just like, all right, how do we keep AI in check? Well, humans have to continually be a part of the process of how we develop all this and how we do keep it. Humans have to keep making decisions because the AI will make decisions. I mean, that's what we're seeing with that ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
it's not only answering our questions, it's asking us some really insightful, thoughtful questions. It's even affirming us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like this morning in PLCs. Like, I was prompting and we were doing some things, and I would read it like responses. And it was like, if you don't like this, ask again. And it's like having a real conversation. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. Or like when you talk about stats on our boy Colby. Colby told us the other day that 50 million jobs are going to be lost because of AI, right? But 80 million jobs are going to be created because of that. Yeah. That's insane.
And how do you plan for that? Can you plan for that, or you prepare for that? I think those are two different words.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you have to prepare for it. Because, I mean, we don't really know what it's going to be like in 10 years. It's like these English teachers, like in 2 years, we may not even need to write papers. Like, that's not even a possibility anymore. Or that could be 10 years from now. Like, you just don't know
so listen,
what's going to happen.
That's where my thoughts have kind of been, and that you're at the table. I want to at least bring this up while we're here. I've been sitting in a room the last few business days with an English teacher and hearing some of the thought process that she's going through. And, you know, sitting around this table as all educated adults, I don't mind using AI assistants to help analyze this or do that, because I've displayed those skills in the past, and sometimes I can become more efficient now by using that help. But this person's dealing with, you know, English standards that I need to test these kids on the ability to analyze text and do things like that. And I think there's some, you know, they're on the front lines in my mind of how do we transition here? How do we move into this modern age, but still preserve some of the skills that you would learn in this class and that they've been displayed? Because it's one thing to have this conversation again with educators who've all displayed these skills, or with professionals out here that you know, their state standards don't matter. But when we start thinking about students as a product, how do we balance that? How do we balance the healthy use of AI assistance nowadays versus there are times when you still need, as a human, to be able to look at a certain text and be able to analyze certain elements of that text and display that as knowledge. So,
and use your words really to communicate that.
Yeah.
I think that's the tough part, especially with those English teachers. Like, their standard says they have to write this, they have to analyze this, they have to use their words.
Yeah.
And that makes it tough to combat this whole AI thing, because you have to be able to do that. But then at the same time, like, you're going to have to redevelop your process. You're going to have to change what you're doing. But you can say that, but then it still goes back to, this is my standard, I have to teach. So I don't know how, that's the conversation we had this morning.
I think standards will have to be revisited sometime in this decade of like,
quick.
How do we adjust this to the skill set of using AI? Because like you and I, we talked about this, like I resisted the internet, and now I'm going to embrace AI.
You did? You resisted the internet?
Heck yeah, I did.
So it's you and Chris Cretton are good buddies then, right?
This man resisted a cell phone.
Man,
that's even more. That's even more so, Chris Cretton. Chris Cretton. We need to get that guy in that seat. Let me just say that. I'm going to leave any Chris Cretton comment right now. I'm going to leave just alone until he's here live and in action. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, and maybe I've said it in these chairs, but maybe not. But like, I even as a young, I didn't want to check email. I didn't need a computer in my classroom. You know, we were going to interact with one another, right? Yeah. I mean, that was my related arts life for 12 years.
I think early on, I think that was not a big deal. I think you check your email once a week, and
but when it did become a big deal, like I still was like, why would I need? Because eventually it was check it daily.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all remember Robert Taylor, Mr. Taylor, Bob Taylor?
He was my principal at Michigan Avenue Elementary as a child.
Taylor. Bob Taylor. Well, he had this like young leaders meeting at the central office, and I was like, I'm going to go join that. Yeah. And I remember there's 40 of us in there. And he was like, how many of you are checking your email daily? And every single person raised their hand, Matt Paris, except me.
Yeah.
And he said, you're not raising your hand? I said, no, sir. He said, well, I can see where you're coming from. Seems admirable, but things are about to change. And I remember looking at him as a young teacher, still kind of having remember, I'm teaching chess as a class through character education. I'm teaching a team leadership class, all that first impression stuff we were talking about the other day. Yeah. And I'm taking kids to go give speeches and practice these skills. I'm teaching a public speaking class. There's a community garden across the street. So we're planting seeds and we're pulling weeds and we're carving pumpkins and we're taking vegetables home. And it's like, why do I need to check my email? Like I'm still in that frame of mind.
Well, based off what you were doing, that wasn't important.
That's right. And I still feel like all those things that I just said, I think are still important.
Yeah.
I still think kids should be
they should.
planting seeds and pulling weeds and everything that Tom Bayless is doing at Walker Valley High School right now.
Killing it.
Yes, he is. I'm eating his vegetables in my own house.
That's right.
I put those toppings on my pizza last week. I'm thankful for what he's doing.
Yeah.
But what those kids are learning to do, like, is that a standard for him? I don't know. I don't care. If it is, I hope he gets to continue to do it because he has to do it. Go with me on this.
Yeah.
But like, how does all this fit? Like, we can learn so much from AI.
Yeah.
Planting different seeds at different seasons, and you're beginning to learn things you didn't know because you put it into AI real quick. And now, hey, Mr. Bayless, I'm a student in your class. I just collaborated with AI, and I've got this. Can I get a little plot right beside our greenhouse, or our greenhouse?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, greenhouse.
Yeah.
And can I experiment with something? Because AI showed me this, because I asked it that. Like, I want them to have those skills because it's collaborative person to person.
Uh-huh.
But now that exists, we're like, oh, I think I just ran myself into this corner where we don't need people because AI could get us there. But that's not what I mean at all. I mean, I want kids to have even more of a shared experience because, hey, look what we can do because of AI. Let's go do these things that are beyond technology, which now I'd like to veer it off of like, that's the unhealthy modes of social media because there's no face-to-face. That's what cyberbullying is. That's what the unhealthy shift in our culture has become, is because people don't look each other in the eye because we're unwilling to do a whole lot of things when we're face-to-face with one another. That was a lot.
It was a lot, but there's a lot to consider. I mean, it's an exciting work. You know, I'm in the career and technical field at school, and it's exciting for me to have the tools at my fingertips and for my students to have these tools. And I guess I brought up the English teachers because, you know, if there was to be an English teacher that accidentally heard my voice on this podcast, I would want them to know that, yes, we are seeking to get to the forefront of this and lead with this and learn and grow. But there's still that guy who, when I hear this in the lunchroom, I stop what I'm doing when that English teacher's talking because I want to hear it from their perspective. And I need to know right now what problems it's creating for them and how, as a teacher in the building who's in classrooms that they're not in, how I can help with that.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is, while I am, you know, I've been experimenting for probably a year now. We talked the other day. Does that sound about right? Year and a half with generative AI.
You have, and I just hopped on board.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And man, just within that year, the growth and the improvements that I've seen as far as hallucinations go and things like that is exponential. And that's me looking at it through a not very scientific eye. I just know based on my use of it. Now, what I'm saying to that English teacher is like, hey, I hear you, and I want to help you, and I want to be a part of the solution. It's at the state level. I could see we're going to have, you know, this is moving really fast. We're going to probably have to move in the direction of changing these standards. And that's a big, you know, that's above my pay grade. It's
a huge deal.
That's a big deal. But I want them to know that as these people who are trying to be innovative and trying to be on board and teach and grow in that way, I'm still, hey, everybody close your computer and put your phone away and get out a piece of paper and a notebook, or a piece of paper and a pencil, and still asking for, now I'm not doing that all the time, but in the things I'm teaching, it's very important for you to be able to see something and hear something and articulate that into words. And we could easily do that on a Google Doc, but there's something that, you know,
there's something about using your hand to write those notes.
Yeah, there's something about being able to take that ink pen and write those words down, and they string a couple sentences together and they make sense. And I want that to remain true because I'm teaching essentially the people that are going to come and take that burglary report for you or investigate your whatever it is that you're a victim of. And those people need to write words. I'm also doing this based on the advice of like the leaders of the police academy and police agencies around us. They're saying, hey, we still want to see this practiced. We want, when people come to us, for them to be able to articulate words.
Yeah, but now I can push my voice recorder. I can put it in my phone immediately. It's efficient. And it can spit that text out, and I can print it off, or I can email it to somebody, or I can, you see what I mean?
Yeah, but it's almost like this idea of not to jump in and get away from this, but it's almost like going back to, don't forget where you started at. Like, we don't want to forget where we started and what the foundation of all things.
Well, it's not only about that. It's about all of the things we enjoy are not, like, even though we feel like they're forever and we take them for granted, there's going to come that Hurricane Helene. Nobody's cell phone's going to work.
Yeah.
There's going to come that 2011 tornado where I can't even get a text message out. You know what I'm saying? What do we do in those moments? I'm not just reverting to these things for nostalgia, and I'm glad you're asking these questions because that makes me think. What I'm saying is, where's the floor? Where's the floor? What, at this point in 2024, with what we have and the eyes that we have that can see as far forward as we can see, and maybe we don't understand where it's going to be, what do we let go of? That's the question. And if I'm being mindful right now, that's why I'm dropping my chicken sandwich and paying attention to this English teacher, because I want to hear their perspective. That's a lot, isn't it?
Is that a Walker Valley chicken sandwich you just dropped?
It's a Walker Valley spicy chicken sandwich. Don't worry, I picked it back up.
Get that 5-second rule.
I didn't drop it on the floor.
Yeah, I got you. Did you think you dropped it on the floor?
That's what I took it as.
Oh, okay, yeah,
really?
You just set it down on his plate.
I just set it on my plate and said...
Well, he said earlier he was walking, and when the teacher
Oh.
talked, he stopped. So I'm assuming he's still walking, and he dropped his sandwich.
No, I said I was in a room. I'm in the Planned Center. We're eating lunch. We're all in there.
Listen, I'm still holding you this Walker Valley scene in the high school. It's like when I opened up the PLC today, it's like, listen, I don't really understand your world, but I'm learning it.
That's fair. It's a humble place to start.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
It's good problems to have, though, guys.
Okay, watch this. I'm going to ask an obvious question, but I want to make sure I have the answer. Does every single public high school student in the state of Tennessee have access to the internet? Now, we have some folks that are out there, off main roads, little teeny tiny high schools. Do they all have the internet?
And I can't imagine that they don't. If
That's
I
right.
find out they
but I'm
don't,
asking the question, though.
I don't know the answer. If I find out they don't, it's going to be a shock to me.
Okay.
I would say they have access, but I don't know if everybody is one-to-one like we are. I think there's your difference.
One-to-one, I'm not saying. I'm saying access.
That wasn't even
internet.
what I was. Yeah,
Right,
I wasn't asking one-to-one, but like everybody.
But I think, yeah,
it's 2024. But I mean, like you have traveled Tennessee enough.
Mm-hmm.
That once you get out of Nashville and you get up into Dover, Tennessee, I know that because I got family there. But like, yeah, they have the internet. Okay, they don't have one-to-one, which is a great point. What you just said. So if they do, they have access to the internet. Do they have access to artificial intelligence? They have the internet. They can hop on to ChatGPT.
Sure.
Right. Okay. So if we're changing the standards, everybody has to have access to that. Okay.
That's right.
Now, educational access, don't we still need people who can help students navigate the World Wide Web, navigate AI? And so now I land on, do they have equal access on how to learn how to use this? Because there's one place I want to go, and I think I'm trying to resist because I want to go a different direction because I know where I wanted to go. Because this is actually my first point from today, driving, is this whole idea of, okay, do we really want equality or do we want fairness? Now that's my end game, but I'm still coming back over here. Is an equal opportunity in education just access to materials and resources? Or is it to people who have embraced this next step in technology, for us in this context, AI? Because if you have standards who now have shifted, but you still have these authority figures in the room who have not embraced it, because I think of my younger self, like I wasn't going to have kids get on the internet and find the next source, because I wasn't really embracing it just yet. But then once I did, then of course the way I've transformed spilled into my classroom like it always does, for better or for worse, right? And so setting standards through AI, do we have teachers who have been trained like we did with Colby a few months ago, who, and he told me some stuff that I kind of just shrugged at. And then all of a sudden, what was the thing that transformed for me? I don't even know if I could articulate it, but like, I'm now fascinated with this.
Yeah.
And now I'm providing opportunities in my classroom. You're providing opportunities in your classroom, but is everybody at Walker Valley High School providing opportunities with AI? No, not yet. I mean, it's not even close.
No.
Right? So that's kind of my dilemma as of right now when we talk about where's it going? Can we predict it? How do we said we can't plan, but we could prepare, those being two different words. Yeah. I don't know. You're looking something up?
Fascinating fact, right?
Okay.
So Googled a quick little thing, and Googled, has their AI overview or whatever. So there's a couple different school districts that it talks about, but it says Tennessee has big gaps in school technology access. There's a Boston consulting group that did a report. It says it's 12 million students don't have adequate internet access at home.
That's at home.
That's at home. So but like going like to school, you figure if they don't have adequate at home, they've got to be in areas that don't have it. And some of these school districts talked about they've got to set up hotspots in their schools for their students. So there's they don't have adequate service at school, but they're having to do other things to get it there. I'm still searching. If I can get you an answer.
Yeah, the at-home internet has been a topic of conversation for quite a while now, because even though, no matter how good.
Our Bradley County kids, not all of them have it.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of our kids are going home and they're hoping mom has gas in the car so they can drive to McDonald's and get Wi-Fi in the parking lot. Those kids are still out there. So I think while it's a great point, and that 12 million that's a lot. We're talking about at school. Are we staying there, or are you just talking about overall?
Well, I'm ready to turn the corner.
Okay.
Because I wasn't going technology at all today. I mean, not even a little bit.
Hey,
not even
Burris
one
walks
bit.
in the room, man.
Yeah, it changes the game, doesn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, who you're with, where you're at.
That's right.
What time it is. Josh, let me ask you, how much time you got? Because I want to be mindful of that.
About 45 minutes.
Okay. This will take 45 minutes.
No. It's all right.
What is the difference between being treated equally and being treated fairly? Can you give me an example? Can you put it into words? You can take that whatever direction you want to, but are those the same words? Are they synonyms? Or are they different?
I think it depends on your approach.
Okay. Approach it from an angle.
If you have sort of a classical approach, they're very close terms. You would see everything rationally, and you're the guy that we all have the same air and opportunity when we wake up in the morning, so it's very close, very easy for me to put equality and fairness in sort of the same category there. But if you're of more neoclassical thought and you decide that while we all do have air and opportunity and rational choices to make each day, we're not all set up to make those choices from the same starting point. Now, there's the extreme versions of that, which would be, someone who has some sort of diagnosable mental illness, and you could treat them equally to me, but that doesn't necessarily make it fair. Are you tracking?
Nope. Keep going. Give me an example. Just try to make that alive.
Let's say you and I are shoulder to shoulder in whatever context we're talking about. Let's say we're students, and I have bipolar disorder. We are presented with the same opportunity that we could both choose, and we both have the want to choose that, whether it be to join a club or to do an extra assignment for enriched learning or whatever it may be. But my bipolar disorder causes me some sort of struggle. So while we've both been treated equally, is it fair at that point? Does that help you more?
Yeah. I did not see bipolar coming. I did not see you taking us to this extreme place of, well, I let you go wherever you wanted to.
Well,
So
what if it's I don't have internet at home?
Well, no, but
because it doesn't have to be as extreme
you're doing
as
that thing to me,
bipolar.
Matt Paris, where I asked you a question and I didn't give any rails whatsoever.
You didn't give me rails, so I took it.
Yeah, thank you.
Is
And
that okay? Are you mad?
Yes, yes, I'm furious. Did you say, are you mad?
You're not mad. I know you're not mad.
No, but I'm trying to watch this. This is my historical bent on this. All men are created equal. And you went with a bipolar diagnosis.
Yeah.
So, like, okay. Are all men created equal? And is that even what they meant? Is it equal opportunity to pursue a dream? Yeah, I just threw that in there. Is it an equal opportunity to have that assignment in front of them? I think that's almost where you were going. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. An equal opportunity to be exposed to this information, to give this activity a try, to attempt to learn this. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're saying, rightly, is that fair? Can I process this? Do I have the skills to process? You're giving me an opportunity to do this, but like I don't have the skill to, in this moment, in this context, in this place, wherever else you might take that. But let me take it back to all men are created equal. So we could go with where's the women at in there? The word all is in there. That's a monster word with only 3 letters.
Yeah.
Created, shoot, you could camp out there. But I really want to look at that word equal. Maybe just even your opinion of what do you think the intent was of equal? And how does our society see equal now? And then you've got this fair card over here that you can play at any time in this conversation.
Sure.
Like, equality is a big deal. Like, I do student creative materials all the time. And I get equality, equal. We're creating things that put that message out there in numerous contexts. But I get very few anythings that say anything about fairness. And I'll go ahead and give you what I usually start in class out with this. So, last night was Sunday. Your grandma got sick, had to take her to the emergency room. You're one of her caretakers. You went. You got home at 4 a.m. You still showed up to school. I'm glad you're here. I went to Atlanta last night. I saw Zach Bryan in concert, and I got back at 4 a.m., but I still made it to school as well. Mm-hmm. But we had that thing due. You didn't get it done, and I didn't get it done. So to be equal, do I just wave it off and go, hey, don't worry about it, you two?
Yeah.
Do I punish both of you? Because that's equal. You didn't turn it in. I could go that route, right? Or is it time to play the fair card and step in and go, hey, I get it. You were at the emergency room. Hey, tell me when you can get it done. Let's negotiate this. Hey, you just made a choice. Is that fair? Because I'm not treating them equally if I decide to go with this last scenario. And we live not only in a world with youth, but I think there's a vibe within social media, and I think there's a vibe once we get off of social media. I think sometimes in those workrooms, the conversation that flows is like, this is unfair, this is unequal, but what are people really saying what they mean? Does equality really mean what they think it does? And is fairness really what we're looking for? You tracking what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've totally veered in a totally different direction, but I think it's something that I really want us to kind of consider. What are we really saying? What are we really trying to say? And what do we really want to come alive in whatever situation, whatever relationship that we're in? What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're saying, you're pulling the Matt Paris right now. You're saying you veered off, but you drove right into what I'm referring to as classical and neoclassical schools of thought. The person who, both of these people had rational choices. They did not get the work done. They still showed up for school even though they were out all night. And classical theory would say, you should have turned it in early instead of on time. Neoclassical would say that the person that went to the concert made a rational choice and they chose not to turn this in, but this person didn't make a rational. There was a lot of choices being made for them that it's reasonable to say that they didn't choose that. So they didn't have the same opportunity to make that choice. You see what I mean?
Is it something developmental within the brain that if I went to the concert and I get this consequence that I still think it's unfair?
Yeah. I mean, that's
developmental.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole, what if we went to the far extreme and I said, it's okay to punish both of those people. And teach that short lesson that life's hard and sometimes things happen and it doesn't go our way. Now, if this is the kind of thing where you've done a good job during all of this, and your grandmother going to the hospital is going to crash your whole everything you've built, maybe that's a little different. But what kind of choice are you making as a teacher if you don't have any of that information?
And how much rapport have you built with both of these students? And I'm going to go ahead and go here because I let kids play this card for me.
Mm-hmm.
It depends, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. But how much of our life are we willing to do the good hard work of discerning the moment? That's where I'm trying to land this plane right now. Right? You tracking with what I'm saying on that one?
Yeah.
Of because that is the really hard work of in a relationship, you care about the person, you're considerate of the circumstance, and will you consider a much bigger picture before you make that decision? I know younger teacher me, I was quick to make decisions, man.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh. And then somewhere in the middle, I learned how to apologize to students.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a big one.
It is. And
I remember we used to do some Colts against bullying, and we had this little box. I've told you this story before, right? I don't know if you were there during that time.
I don't know.
But the students got to, for a little while.
Is this the Colt Corral or the... No, that's not Colt Corral.
It was CAB, Colts Against Bullying.
Okay, keep going.
So on the morning show, there's a little box, and, students could put some stuff in there from the library. And one student said something about they felt like they were being bullied by a teacher. And so, I took part of that morning show and, considered the possibility that some sort of adult could continually, according to the definition of bullying, bother someone time after time after time and abuse that authority position. And of course, I didn't say it this way. I made it very middle schoolish and I made it very minimal.
Yeah.
But heck yeah, that happens. We all have it from our own student experiences. And
yeah.
I mean, if we're really honest and we've been teaching long enough, maybe we haven't bullied people, but we sure have bothered some kids. We have abused our position of authority in some sort of way, I get to be snippy, right? I get to be a jerk. I get to be because I'm in charge. And somewhere along the way, I decided that, no, I don't. I can play my authority card, but I don't want to anymore. So I learned how to apologize to kids. Hey, I took that too far. I apologize from yesterday. Forgive me. And I mean, it changes everything, just like it does in every other relationship. But I remember even mentioning that on a morning show, and I had one teacher come up to me, and I mean, I was still a pretty young teacher, but I'm 7-8 years in. I mean, I got a clue, and I've got some conviction. And this was 30 years in. She's mad. You can't be saying that. I was like, well, it's true. And you might be doing it to me right now.
So as a teacher of teachers, if you turn that into that thing where you're snippy or you, in your mind, abuse that power, if you do that publicly, is that apology publicly, or do you make that apology privately?
You do the hard work of discerning which is necessary.
Yeah, I got you. The reason I ask is last year I came into class, and there was this kid. Now, by all means, this kid had been a rotten little turd to me. And, man, I just bit his head off in class one. Just bit it all the way off. And it silenced the room, buddy. I mean, nobody missed this. And I did the Matt Paris thing where I immediately regret it. And I don't know what's the path back here? I go and I sleep on it, and I'm feeling bad about it all afternoon. I'm that guy who it just bothers me. And then I visit this idea of leaders throughout my whole life have said, if I do something publicly and I'm going to apologize, there's times I should consider making that apology public. And there was part of me that was like, man, is that just bringing it back up, or is that
Yeah, it's a great question, but it's a super hard question.
In this moment, I just said, hey, guys, and this is my whole class. I'm not one to, mull over old news, but y'all were in here yesterday and you got to see me be pretty ugly and you saw me pretty frustrated, and I'm ashamed of it, man. And I went a little far, and I looked at the kid and I was like, I want you to know, because everybody heard me be rude to you, I want you to know that I had no place, and it was weakness. That is not a place of strength I was coming from. It's a place of weakness, and that I'm so sorry, and I hope I didn't damage our relationship beyond repair. And I said something to the effect, I simply feel like I killed a fly with an axe, and I'm sorry.
So embarrassed.
Now, it was awkward for a minute.
Sure.
But, just reading the room, I could feel, because there's other kids in the room that have no problem with you and they have no issues and they're there to do what they want to do. But when they see, no matter how justified you feel in it, when they see you treat someone like that, it's not fair. It's not the way it should be. And so, yeah, I get that. I like that sentiment.
I really feel like we're building relationships.
For sure.
Like it's not just a line. And I believe as a professional, which as a young teacher, I remember not liking to use that word because I really felt like relationship was at the core. But there is a professionalism in what we do. And I believe the professionalism is understanding what your responsibilities are, understanding what your content is. If you've got standards, respect them. But I also believe in, stirring up some good trouble. I believe in coloring outside the lines. I believe in living in the box and out of the box and throwing the box away. And use whatever metaphor you want to.
Yeah.
But you can only do all that when you have built rapport with people. So if I come in and I'm jumping double Dutch in my U.S. history class and my administrator comes in, I better have a really good reason why I'm skipping rope in class. And I do. We're traveling. Every skip is a mile, and we're traveling through geography lessons, and we're trying to get from one place to another because we're an Okie or we're an exoduster or we're part of the Great Migration. But I have to be able to articulate if we're having fun, but it's got to be educational. If we're playing chess, I've got to have a reason. I've got to respect my profession enough not to have free time, but to have whatever I'm doing be constructive for the day. It's part of our profession, right?
Yeah.
But I think part of our profession as well is one of the best professional development that Ron Spangler ever brought in. He brought in a fella who said this one thing, and I remember writing it down, and I wrote it on my heart. That calm is strength.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the young fella that heard that. It was the year maybe 5, 6, 7, not 2 or 3. Because, man, I remember having that girl. The one that I can really remember that I apologize to everybody. You put a girl in her place, and this is a 7th grade girl, and this is a middle schooler. And I shut her up. Man, she didn't talk for 3 days. And then someone, which, such is life, tells me the story of this little girl, and, foster home to foster home to foster home. It's one of those where I just begin to liquefy. I'm just a puddle on the floor. And I go, it makes sense now that she has no skills whatsoever in a social setting. She has no skills talking to an adult. And I had enough. And so I played my card of authority figure and put her in her place and shut her up. Yeah. And just no, what I did was I broke her.
Yeah.
And so I had already done the thing of apologizing to her the next day. But the young mind sometimes doesn't get it. Shoot, even the 40-year-old mind doesn't get it sometimes. But that was one of those where I did apologize to the class because that's not cool. Yeah. And I have never forgotten that. And so, I still get exhausted. I still lose sleep. I still come in tired. Coffee doesn't work sometimes. A smile doesn't work sometimes. But I tell you what does, being prepared. Always being prepared for class. That is part of my professional responsibility. Yeah. So that when I am exhausted, I don't go to that place where I can't handle something emotionally. And now I've wrecked the room. But that I can stay the course on the days that I'm really fatigued. And just kind of give my best, because isn't that what we ask of students? Hey, so you're not feeling well, but you showed up. I appreciate you being here. Now give me what you got. And I mean, like, we don't, I believe professionally, we don't get to take days off like that. And we have to continue to show up. So when we do miss it, and we are human, that we make wrong things right.
Yeah. I remember one of the, for those listening, if they don't know my story, I didn't go to a university to be a teacher. That's not what I did. Came from a law enforcement background, and now I'm a teacher. But one of the first classes I had about teaching was by the Post Commission, which is the commission who certifies police officers. I went to just get an instructor certification. So they bring you in a room and you spend a week or two in there, and they basically talk about, part of it is how to present your lesson plan and all that. A lot of it's about how to teach adults, because it's a little bit different. But I remember on the first day, the instructor got up there and he wrote on the board ego, and he drew an arrow pointing up, equals control, and he drew an arrow and pointed down. And he spit to us what is essentially, I was trying to look it up a second ago. I think it might be a verbal judo technique. I could be saying that wrong, so don't take me on that. But the whole message is, like, in those moments when you're tempted and you feel like you think that pulling that trigger, or not a literal trigger, playing that card, snapping at people, getting really involved emotionally, there's sometimes it's natural to feel that that's justified and to feel that you're doing your knee-jerk reaction, but a real pro, man, knows that there's no power in that, there's no strength in that. And once you've gone to that place and your ego is involved, whatever control you have of that situation is lost. And in a classroom, you not only lose control in that one-on-one, but you begin to lose parts of the room.
Yeah.
Because those same kids who are sitting around watching, who are completely innocent and they love you you're one of their favorites, they hate that about you. They hate the fact that you'll go there. And I've learned that. I'm learning that still. I'm not going to pretend I'm learned in any aspect, but that's something that I think about all the time.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Because in parenting, are we going to be friends, or am I going to help you figure out how to navigate life?
Yeah.
We've had those conversations, right?
Oh, yeah.
Fun, friendship. Like, I've got boys now, 21, 19, almost 17. Yeah. But we're going to have to define what friend is. That's what I want to do next. I only got 2 more things.
Yeah.
Teaching. We're going to be friends, or, like, am I going to teach you something? Like, in the context in which we teach, like, not on a college campus, but with a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Friendship is not the aim. It's not the end game. It's not an ambition. It's not a goal. It's not.
That's right.
But how do we develop friendships? How do we develop our inner landscape? Here's my theory. That you have to have friends outside. You have to have learned the power of friendship. You have to have learned how to be a friend. You have to have learned how to be loved on. It's one thing to be helpful. It's another thing to let yourself be helped. And friendship does that, right? And I think all those things that I just mentioned are valuable in the classroom. But I'm not talking about friendship. I'm talking about taking care of people, being patient with people. Not only helping, but, we teach an age where, like, they really can teach us some stuff. They know some stuff we don't know.
Every day, yeah, for sure.
And that's because, both of us were curious by nature. And if we open ourselves up to them being a source of something that we can learn, even process, if it's something that's not just a fact they threw our way because they knew it and we didn't know it, but, like, just how to interact with people or how to treat people. I want to create those kind of networks, but I don't think I get to be that in a classroom unless I'm that with my wife, with my boys, with Matt Paris, with my parents, where I've learned how to treat someone well. I, in my later years, have one of my greatest ambitions is to be who I am everywhere I go. I really want to be that. I don't want to be this teacher thing. I don't want to be this coach thing. I don't want to be, and we've spoken about this, maybe not on, in the podcast, but like, how do we let ourselves as coaches say certain things, do certain things, use certain tones, use certain words? And when I say us as coaches, sure, I mean me and you, but I mean us collectively as community coaches, from the youngest age to what we coach on Friday nights, or basketball season's coming here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Wrestling coaches are going to be on the mats, to where I want to be that same guy even in the gym that I am in the classroom, that I am at home, that I am in my friendships. But I think that's more of the good hard work that I think that we're giving ourselves to. Am I right on that?
Yeah, because it's hard. I mean, it's easy to, even though it's not as quality and it's not as good, it's easier to sort of become that robot that, I imagine a world where I come in and I don't think about taking care of people, or people taking care of me, or students teaching me things, or me considering circumstances that a 25-year-old Matt Paris would have just flew by and made a decision on. I imagine that person, and it seems less stressful and maybe a little easier than what I do now. But I completely get the sentiment that you're talking about, of how, the dynamic of, like, we're not friends, but I'm going to be friendly to you. And I want to teach you that dynamic in this room, based around this context of what it means to sort of have each other's back.
I got a curiosity question for you.
Yeah.
How many people that you were friends with in high school are you still friends with now?
I'm searching my files. It's not a lot, if it's any. We talking about friends like I spend consistent time with them.
Hey, however you define friends. Josh, I'm going to ask you the same thing. I'm looking for a number. You got a number?
No, probably 0.
Is it 0?
Yeah.
That's you, Josh?
0.
I got 1.
And I'm in the same town as my high school.
Yeah.
But I wasn't around, I'm not going to bash anybody, but I wasn't around great people in high school.
So does that say something about our transformation? Does that say something about what does that say? I mean, like, that's a legit question. I'm asking
personally,
right
it's definitely a transformation. Yeah, and that's, my story's a whole episode series, but yeah, I mean, I'm married at 20 years old, man. I've got a kid, and some of the best marriage advice I ever got: don't hang out with single people. And first,
you've had that conversation.
By the grace of God, Matt Paris listened to that guy, 20-year-old Matt Paris. I don't know why, because I wasn't listening to a lot of wisdom in my life, but I listened to that guy, and I've repeated that to some young people in my day. Hey, when you go get married, there's going to be this temptation to have all your single friends over and just live it up like we're on Saved by the Bell of the college years. Don't do that.
Did you watch Saved by the Bell college years?
I mean, I've seen some of it.
Yeah. Did you even watch Saved by the Bell?
Yeah, man, I love Saved by the Bell.
I was just checking. Did you watch the college years?
I did, but I remember going to school and that would be on in the mornings.
Yeah, it's not.
And I'd have some time to hang out.
I definitely watched it, but it's not like I could quote it.
Okay. What about you? Why are you not hanging out with your high school friends?
I think some of it is a transformation. So, like, out of the people that I hung out, played high school football, that was most of my friends, just because that's the world I breathed and lived and all those things. Went off to college. It was just, I went with a guy. We won't get into that story, but eventually it was just me. The only person I knew on campus was me. I had to meet new friends. And I can remember going home. I don't know, I didn't go home for a long time. But when I went home, first football, Friday night, let's go home and let's see everybody. Let's go hang out. And it wasn't the same. I mean, I can remember seeing my friends that I talked to on a daily basis, and we just, what are y'all doing? They were doing nothing that I really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Or I can remember, like, my best friend, I would call him, hey, I'm coming in town. Hey, you can come over to my buddy's house. We're going to be playing Xbox. Man, I love playing games, but, like, I drove 2 hours to hang out. I don't want to go sit in your friend's house to play Xbox.
Yeah.
So I stopped. Like, and some of it's on me. Like, I just stopped. But then, like, when you do reach out to some of them, like, you don't hear nothing back. And it's just... all right, you know. I don't know if it's necessarily I grew up or I just didn't want to do those things. I don't know. So I kind of like just lost touch.
Yeah. At the age of 30, I realized that I didn't have a good working definition of what love was or friendship. And the 2.5 years of therapy that I entered into helped me define those things so that I could use it to navigate my marriage, parenting, teaching, coaching. But I finally picked up some friends. I just didn't know how to be a friend. It wasn't like I was a bad friend, but I felt like I was an acquaintance to every human on the planet because I was a good guy. I was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Came from a family of good people, carried with it a good name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but there wasn't much depth to any relationship that I had. And you know that wasn't good because I got married at 22. So it wasn't like I was bringing much to Sarah at the beginning of our game. We're 25 years in now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like I'm bringing something to the relationship, bringing something to our parenting. But that was a hard realization of going, man, I'm 30 and I don't really have any. I have friends, I have acquaintances, but like, man, someone that just, my working definition of love now is to stick and stay. Whoever sticks and stays, they love me. And if I want to prove to someone that they're being loved in this moment, I'll just stick. I'll just stay. You know, and so that was a tough one. So wanting to be who I am everywhere I go, I can bring that into a classroom. I can stick and I can stay. And that's why I tell them my door is always open. The semester's over. This is not goodbye. This is see you later.
Yeah.
And my door will always metaphorically be open because according to the state law, I have to lock my doors.
It should be locked and closed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm not opening any doors. I'm not propping them open. I'm not getting fined $250. But that was the transformation for me of understanding that like I really don't know. And helping someone walk into my life and say, things can be undone. And Sarah, hold on. Because this guy is figuring some stuff out. Like, Gail had to tell Sarah face to face. He'll figure it out. And she needed that encouragement because I created some very difficult times for us as I just continued to struggle to do the good hard work within the inner landscape.
Yeah.
And so for anybody that can say anything about me, it's because of Gail being gracious enough to be in my life and stick with me, and for Sarah Jean to stick and stay and to truly show me what love is and what friendship is. And it changed my life forever, for sure. So here's my last one of the day. You ready?
Yep.
What's your best mistake you've ever made?
See, I need time to think about
I know
this
you
one.
do.
That's a tough one.
But I just want you to at least recognize how good that question is.
Well, I mean...
That's a good one. Because check this out. I'll buy you some time. I'll buy you some time. You got to give me something, and then we're going to push pause on this. You got something off the top of your head?
I don't know where you want to go with this.
No.
But yes, the best mistake I ever made. I just mentioned that I got married at 19, had a baby at 20. And I would look back and tell you, if we look at things from the 30,000-foot view, that's a mistake. Young people, if you're listening to me, that's the hard way. Don't do it. But gosh, man, here I sit 40 years old. I've got a son who is a whale of a man and a heck of a dude. And he's about to turn 21. And I've got my lady still with me. I tell people all the time, we're the exception, not the rule. Because there were some times that I had to really cling on with clenched fists in my, early 20s and just refuse. Like, I refuse to become this. I refuse to let this happen to my marriage. I refuse to let my, again, thank God for some reason. And I keep saying for some reason, it's the day that baby's born. It's the day that you bring that baby home at 19 years old and you know that that person doesn't survive without you. Things change. Your life changes. Both of you have experienced this, but to experience it at 19 years old was literally grace in pursuit of me, because I was on a path, buddy. I was on a path, and that Valerie came into my life and Kyler came into my life, changed my life. It caused me to slow down at those Sunday morning services that I was going to, and that old guy that's been shaking my hand and giving me a hug for years to just start saying things like, hey, tell me about this or tell me about that. Dickie Houston. I don't know if anybody listening to my voice is going to know that name, but Dickie Houston is one that I think of all the time. And I told you this in a conversation the other day. He's the guy when Kyler's 7 or 8 years old and he's playing ball and he's doing all this. He looks at me and he's like, hey, there's going to come a time when there's all these ball games are going to be over, and that boy, he's going to go be a man, and he's going to go out into this world, and you're going to be in that house with that lady right there by your side. You need to make sure you know who she is. Have a strong marriage. That's the best thing you can do to be a good daddy, is have a strong marriage. And guys like that in my life changed my life. So that's the best mistake I ever made, was getting married and having a child way younger than I would recommend anybody else to ever do it. Because we're 40, we're empty nesters, and our son is making a solid living and being good to people and figuring this life out. And so that was a great mistake for me, sitting in this seat right now.
Let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly, though. That ain't a mistake anymore, is it?
No, gosh, no. That's why I felt guilty even referring to it as a mistake, but I think you can take the point.
That's where we're going with this, because can we... See, here's one of the benefits of counseling, is that you process things before the trigger hits.
Yeah.
You process things before the anger sets in. You process things before the dark cloud of depression begins to just become that heavy weight. Mm-hmm. So that when you are in that moment of anger, you're in that moment of sadness, that you've already processed some things and go, oh, okay, wait a minute. If at some other place on my storyline, this thing in the moment seemed like a mistake, we call it all kinds of things,
sure,
right? But sometimes the worst thing that could happen in that moment becomes the best thing that ever happened to us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I believe that with my whole entire heart.
Sure.
Can we get to the place where our heart can whisper at the right volume in the moment to go, you're going to be okay, because you've been here before. Friendship helps us do that. Love helps us do that. Doing some good hard work. I know I keep saying that, but I believe in that so much. In preparing just for the inevitabilities of what life is going to bring us. Maybe it's not a mistake. This is just my next hard thing. And while I do the good thing of honoring the moment with my full attention, rather than going to starting to blame, starting to complain, or just quit, but that we could recognize our horror moments in the moment. And just give it a healthier response for our own sake and for the sake of people around us. Because the more connected we are, the more people, what we do ripples in other people's lives and spills onto them. There are some choices and consequences we make. And man, it affects those people. It affects our wives. It affects our children. It affects our students. We've already kind of mentioned that, but there's a context that plays here as well. And so, Josh, what about you? What do you think?
Man, I don't know, and I've had more time to process this than that. I don't know if I had a big mistake, but I've been thinking about just my life and how things went, and then something would happen, and then you reflect, and you're like, well, I'm glad that happened because this, or it made you stronger. Or I think, family stuff. I didn't get married till I was 28, 29, no, 28, 27, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I think about, just my path of, living.
Do you know when you got married? I'm just checking.
2014.
Do you have a date that you can remember?
June 14th of 2014.
That was a question mark on the end of that one.
Heavy editing right here, guys.
No question. Just the way I said it. I don't know. I think just the way my life went, and I guess with the, not to copy you, but I guess to stay with that same idea, just to, I don't know, see how you want. Man, I don't know how I want to say it. I don't know. I guess really it made me more things just made me more of a family man. Like, man, I loved rafting in the Yakota River, loved kayaking, doing all these outdoor things. And then I feel like I really found my identity in that for a long time. I found my identity maybe in coaching football. I mean, that was a huge deal. Like, to me, I mean, nobody probably really cared, but like when I stepped down from that, that was a big deal to me. And to figure out who I was after that, it really came back to family stuff. It came back to being a part of that. So maybe a combination of lots of mistakes or things that I was so wrapped up into to realize, like, man, I got 3 girls at home that need me there, that want me there, instead of me just doing whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So
identity.
Maybe, yeah.
You're speaking to your how you see you, not how your girls see you.
Yeah.
Because it's probably in a much better light than how you see you.
That's
not
right.
how your woman sees you, not how your coworkers see you. Because for some of us, especially most of us who are just good guys, we do not have the best view of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, now that may take some of the front. You know, you can bring ego back into this conversation, or you can bring false humility back into this conversation. But I want us, as we mature as men, and I'm talking to the 3 of us in here, and I'm talking to anybody that by some crazy chance might be listening, that like that's the greatest gift. Like what old Dickie said, the greatest gift we can give to those people, and I'm going to go again to kids, students, players, co-workers, anybody, you know, collaborators, and in anything that we do, any way that we connect to other people. That what I want coming from us comes from a healthier place that is courageous, that is humble, that is patient. We do have a vision for the future. It is compassionate. And that would be the kind of risks that we take. And that we could lean into some friendship and lean into our loved ones and like experiment with some truths and take some things that we're unsure about. And that be more of our life's pursuit along those ways. And maybe we never call anything a mistake ever again. Maybe not, because this is not a one and done conversation for sure.
No, for sure.
But this is one of those where we're about to pause here in just a second. But will you humor me? Do you have access to our intro by some crazy chance that you can play the first couple seconds?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Yeah, because I think that I picked my pattern today. I told you I got up early, went to Tennessee Wesleyan, saw some Lady Bulldogs practice, and Jalea Lindsay, one of our former Lady Mustangs, she's just starting as a freshman, just so you know, and she's getting buckets, just so you know. And
it's good stuff.
I mean, but coming back, you know, I was listening to our podcast, and I was listening to another podcast, and, you know, I was just thinking about knowing we're going to make it to the booth today. And when this thing popped on, you ready?
Yeah.
Hit it.
Man, that's downright mindful.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
We just become best friends. Yup.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Pause that for me, please.
Mr. Gorbachev.
Now, in my notes, it says, this wall, no backups, I quit, there is no try, and I still have a dream. We only got through the first 3. All men are created equal, best friends, and best mistake. You know, and that's where it was just like, I want people to understand that intro is not an accident.
No, it's not.
Like my man, Matt Paris, made that. And then when I saw him the next day, and I was just giggling because I loved it so much. But like you said, yeah, man, I was thinking about you. Like each one of those clips he just took, and like probably even more so than he realizes. Like, man, we could camp out with every single one of those snippets. That's why I love those little, even audio collages. I'm sure that has a different word, but that's the only thing I can come up with just now. But like, do people even know the context of, you know, Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall? I don't even know what wall that is. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that do, and there's going to be some that don't. And even those who do they even know? Like, I mean, we're talking decade after decade. This wall is separating families. And there was a world war that was fought, and it was separated because of that, but it's now separated with a physical wall. And then even the one quote, you know, if it doesn't fit, quit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how many listeners right now, even know what that is even who we're talking about and why he even said that. And even what the word acquit means. You know what I'm saying?
Would they know Johnny Cochran if we mention that name?
Some of the old heads will, you know what I'm saying? But
I will say, like, you know, part of choosing that was what you're talking about. But there was some part of it of like, how many different generations can I speak to right here? So there's some of that. There's that thing is 3-dimensional in a lot of ways. So
so don't say too much, because I'm going to revisit.
Okay. Yeah.
Won't be next time I drive, but I will bring that back and go, hey, play that intro for me one more time. And then we'll hit some things, because I love every single one of them, and every single one of them speaks.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man.
It's Downright Mindful.
Time to hit pause, brother.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's say a history student of yours just trips on that episode of the podcast we just recorded. Now, other than wisdom and, sort of a philosophical approach to deep thinking or life, what is in there now that it's fresh on your mind right now that is valuable to your student as a history student, not just as your student?
Yeah, it's the sociology piece to this. I went to Lee University to study sociology, and then I studied history. So my mind is bent historically of understanding people and places and how they navigated their world. But the soul of my teaching is how do humans interact from generation upon generation upon generation upon generation. So anytime that we are talking about on any level whatsoever of relationships and what that means to be healthy, remain healthy in your relationships, relationship with yourself, relationship with those that are closest to you. That's where we're going with this. You can't understand the content fully unless you understand that they are human. And I attempt all the time in my history classes to keep George Washington and Dr. King's humanity intact. Because if they just remain on the poster, they just remain as the founding father and the civil rights leader. And those guys, man, George is a stepdad, and Dr. King is a dad who's gone 28 days out of the month. What's that like for their family? But bring it back. What's that like for them? Raising someone else's babies to adulthood. And what's that like for him knowing that he's been gone for so long and he's about to leave again? I am the son of an alcoholic. I'm the stepson of a workaholic. I have become things that my boys will continue to struggle with. That is the sociology piece of everything that we study, because that, by its definition of how do humans interact. And buddy, if we're not doing that piece, we're not teaching history. Because Josh went on this big thing. No, not Josh. You with the English teachers. On this big thing of I want to listen to them in the trenches and what they're going through. I can't teach history without teaching language arts, and language arts can't teach history, or can't teach language arts without teaching history. And so it is near and dear to my heart and to my mind that we continue to go down these veins, that if content-specific standards don't pop up, we're going to be A-okay, because the relational skills of navigating the world generation upon generation are things that have to be laid in place for the young people, because those young people are going to be the people that are going to become parents, or they're going to become teachers, or they're going to become the things that matter in society. And so, man, that's why I believe what we're doing right now matters. And the way that we're doing it, yeah, we're on to something authentic for us. And, for those closest to us, we'll affirm that. And, if anybody else happens to listen to this when it comes to a more academic setting, I hope they see that as well.
I tell you, man, you may have missed this part, but, Colby and I were talking before we started recording about, real estate photography, and we were talking about drones and this and that, and how both of us have came to this place where, we have the ability to do these things, and I arrived at this place where I'm I just don't really think that's what I want to spend my time doing. And he's at this place where he's curious about it, and he don't know yet. Well, what I didn't say to Colby, but I'll say to you is,
man, the older I get, the more I'm remembering what a creative being I am.
Yes.
And I've been out and photographed a couple houses now and put those things together, and it just doesn't scratch that itch, man.
Yeah.
When you start talking about taking things that have always been seen in one context and putting them into another, and now I get to pair it with putting sound waves on a screen and splicing them together in an artistic way and taking sound bites from the internet, from historical voices in different generations that are all saying something. I'm not saying it's scratching that itch, but man, it's I'm really enjoying it. Like, that's the thing that I don't want people who are listening to us to miss. It's like,
I'll give you another one.
Yeah.
When you said to me, well, as a teacher of teachers, I mean, I lit up. I probably kept my game face on because I wanted to keep listening and give you a decent, perspective, because it's different. As a teacher of teachers, which, I, just so everybody knows, I've adjunct over at Lee. And I mean, it is my life's pursuit beyond time in the trenches in the high school when that comes. In the next few years or whatever, I would love to continue to do that full time. But that's coming from a totally different perspective. And some of what we just did right there is, it's that view of this learning environment we've just created. So I can come in and say, hey, this is all about my students. But where I come from and my learning is also adults learning how to navigate. And I believe peer-to-peer contact, peer-to-peer professional development is something that oftentimes we lack, which means that sometimes we lack that rapport within the building between educators because we haven't had some sort of authentic connection. And I mean, I've held on to this information for a long time. As a young teacher, I came across a study from Harvard Business School. Hey, the most dynamic changing schools wasn't anything that the state brought in, it wasn't anything the central office brought in, it wasn't anything the students did, it was teacher rapport, like that care and concern and compassion, but also that ability to do your job really well connected to someone else is doing their job really well, and you're in this together, and that when things get hard, which they inevitably will in the profession that we're in, that you've got someone beside you, because it's not always going to be a fight. Like, I need someone to have my back, but I just need someone beside me because we're doing something that's going to last just beyond this end of course test, that AP exam, and even beyond graduation for the kids, but also it's going to last for us teachers. We're making friendships out of our profession. It's something very unique to us. There are other professions, but there aren't most professions where you can develop some really sincere friendships with one another. But that's been my experience, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, for sure. What else you got, man? I think honestly, you did a good job today of staying in that place where we're really talking from experiences, and we're talking. I hate to dumb it down and say the day to day, because it's not dumbed down at all. It's the things we talk about. I feel like today was more genuine to what our start was, and hey, let's press record on some of these conversations, because I think there's people that would be interested in hearing it.
Yeah, me too. I want to be human. I tell students, once you graduate, you see me around town, I would love for you to call me Paul. It's going to be super duper weird, and you're not going to want to do it, but I'm going to encourage you to remember that everywhere else that you go in life, you're calling people by their first name.
Yeah.
And so once you graduate, now we're going to do this because this has been established. This is the structure that we go by. I'm Mr. Sawsville, and I'm here in this collaborative learning environment for us to pursue something together. But I am Paul everywhere I go, even in this room, even if you don't call me by my name. And I want to be that authentic self. Because I just think, man, it keeps me grounded. This is very personal for me. And the healthier I am, the stronger I am, the more grounded I am. Man, how much more can I be for you in that frame? So, if that power struggle dynamic is always, in flux, man, that's a tough road to navigate together. We may be taking some steps in the same direction, but we may not be together. And everybody knows a relationship like that. And I want this relationship to be more true. So if we go there in our podcast, and I still think it totally connects, because we're giving a more authentic view of what we choose to do day to day.
Man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville.